Good morning, Believe Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Evan Carmichael Show. I'm your host, Evan Carmichael. Now, I'm a little bit sick today, so if you hear the occasional sniffle or cough, I apologize in advance, but I am excited to be with you here today. This show is all about helping you grow your business. It's helping you reach your goals. It's helping you break through the obstacles that are in front of you and building the company of your dreams. On the episode today, we're going to talk about how to develop a skill, when to quit your job. I'm going to have a special guest, Dave Curlin, who's a sales guru, who's going to share his wisdom and how to stop being afraid of imperfection. All right, so I recently got asked a question on Twitter by Hockenstein KRG, who asked me, how do you develop a skill? And the easy answer to this is you practice, right? Whatever skill you want to develop, whether it's in business or personal skill, the more you practice, the more likely you're going to get better, right? If you want to improve your copywriting, you got to practice. If you want to be a radio show host, you got to practice. If you want to learn French or Spanish or how to ride a bike, you got to practice. So that's a simple answer. But to add a layer on top of that, to help speed up that skill development, the best way to do it, the most effective way to do it is to model success. And that's where you find someone who has already achieved that skill, a mastery level, a level that you want to get to, and model what worked for them and apply it to you. And that can be either in the form of a personal mentor, somebody that you're meeting face-to-face and giving you advice, or it could just be the form of researching and finding somebody who has gone out and done it and read their biography and watch their videos and read newspaper interviews with them, learn how they did it. Because practicing is great, but you have to make sure you're practicing the right things. And if you could spend tons of time practicing, but it's not on the right things, your development will be a lot slower than if you're practicing the right things. So a quick example, you guys listen on this radio show. When I first started the show, I had been on radio before, but I never had my own show. I'd been a guest on other people's shows. And so my agent put me in touch with a media coach, and we trained and we practiced. She drilled me, and we did mock shows before I went and did my first one. And then after every episode that I had, we analyzed the tape. We went over everything, and she gave me recommendations for what to improve, and she gave me more tests and drills. And that really sped up my development because I was putting in the work. I was willing to practice, but she told me the right things to practice. Now, you may be thinking, well, I don't have enough money to hire a coach to help me, or I don't have anybody at my network who's done what I want to do. And that's okay. Don't give up. Don't let that be your excuse for not trying and not moving forward on your goal. What you can do is still model success by reading the stories of people who've already done what you want to do. And that's what literally saved my business. There was a story about Bill Gates and how he started his software company, right? Not how he makes an extra million now, but how he went from 0 to 1. And when I was struggling with my business, which was also software and making $300 a month, that's the story that saved me. I realized that he formed partnerships with other companies and applied that strategy to my business, and I started to grow. And so, yes, you have to put in the work, and yes, you have to keep, putting in those hours and working hard and practicing to develop your skill. But to be really effective at it, you have to make sure you're practicing the right things and that you're applying your strategies by being coached by somebody or by modeling success of somebody that you look up to. And the bigger that person is, the more established they are, the more of a track record they have, the easier it is to find their stories and apply their strategies to help you develop whatever skill that you're trying to learn. All right, I want to get to the calls. That's the fun part for me on this show. Who do I have? I have Regina on the line. Regina, where are you from and how can I help?
Hi, I'm from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And I'm currently in the process of writing a book, and I'm suffering from fear paralysis. So how do you overcome that?
So what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of writing it? Are you afraid of releasing it? What's holding you back?
I think for me, it's the content. I'm afraid that maybe, I don't know. I've just figured out that that's what's keeping me from writing like I should be doing every day. Is maybe that there's already 1,000 other books with the content that I'm going to be putting into mine. I'm just trying. I guess I'm scared, that I'm going to be. It's going to be a flop.
What's the topic of the book?
It's business survival tips for small bars. I own 2 small bars, and I've gone through so many obstacles in my 7 years, and through these obstacles, I've learned many, many things that I've met other business owners that don't or have never, challenged or had happened to them. And they're like, man, I wish I'd know this before it happened to me, which is what inspired me to write a book of all of my challenges that I've had to overcome over the 7 years in running a small roadside bar.
Got it. I love it. And I'd recommend two things for you that I think will help you, Regina. The first is adding yourself to the book and telling your story and telling the success you've had with the 2 bars and the failures. Because if you're just giving just general tips, then that's what everybody else is doing. And so the way you stand out is by making it more Regina, right? So telling your story, sharing your wisdom, sharing exactly what happened to you, that's what makes people connect to you a lot more than just reading those general tips. So anybody can be a bar expert, but not everybody can be Regina. So you've got to make the book as much Regina as possible and applying your wisdom and your stories to each of the tips that you're providing. So that's how you stand out. That's one way to stand out and make it different from everybody else. Because if you have, John Taffer, right? He's maybe the guru of making over bars.
I was on his show, Bar Rescue. He came and made over my bar. So I know John Taffer really well.
Great. I mean, and he has his style, right? He has his way of doing things, and he has his stories and his methodology. And a lot of people are attuned to that, and they love it, and they apply it. But others may not, or they may need to hear it in a different way, or a different voice, and different examples, and different stories. And that's where you can come in. Okay, so adding Regina to every tip that you're giving. So not just the strategy, but adding your personal touch to each thing. The other thing that will help, especially for these big projects, like it takes a long time to write a book, and it's easy to get discouraged along that process. Think about the people that you've helped. Like think about the other bar owners and the other entrepreneurs that you have helped with your advice, and you realize, man, I've really helped that person. I've really maybe even helped save that person's bar. I call those the little whys. Like those individual people that you help on an ongoing basis can give you the extra encouragement and motivation to realize that, hey, what I'm doing is important, right? Like it actually helps people. I'm providing value to the world, and by me putting all my thoughts down into this book, it's going to be able to reach a lot more people and help a lot more people.
Right. I'm currently working with some small business owners with their business, and that is helping me. That's helping me to see, that okay, maybe my knowledge is good again. Because when I first started this project, I was so gung-ho, and I was going to get in there, and I was going to have it done in 3 months, and here it is 8 months later, and I'm still sitting here staring at my chapters. I've got this nice, real big skeleton made out. All I got to do is put the meat on the bones, and it's just, when I get there, it's like, I stop. I find other things. I'm prioritizing the wrong things in my life, and I'm not getting to my writing, and that's where that I've learned that that's my fear paralysis happening.
What I would try doing is, if you have a writing day, so like Tuesdays and Thursdays are your writing days. I'm just using that as an example. I would try to, first thing in the morning on those days, line up a call with a small business owner that you're helping. Have a half-hour call with them to give them advice and wisdom and help them along their journey. And you'll get off of that call feeling so great about yourself and your value and the wisdom that you're providing, that carry that through then into the rest of your writing day. So if you have, like 9 to 5 writing, have a 8:30 call to 9 just to get you going, get that motivation, get that spark, get that energy, and then carry that through to the rest of your day and know that you're providing value to the entrepreneurs who will eventually read this book.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for your advice, and I am going to apply that.
No problem. What's the name of your book so I can look for it when it comes out?
It's going to be called Our Special Recipes Are Made in Chaps, Survival Techniques of a Roadside Bar in Tennessee. It is on Empty Bottle Bar and Grill, which was an episode of Bar Rescue. I think it was season 3. It was called Empty Bottles, Full Cans.
Very cool.
And so that's our motto. Our special recipes are made in Chaps. So
thanks, Regina. I've got to let you go, but thank you so much for calling in, and good luck with the book. And for everybody listening, have those little whys, have those things that motivate you, that remind you that what you're doing is providing value, that is helpful, and carry that through to the rest of your day to give you that energy to go forward and continue creating awesome work to help. The next question I had was from Ignace, who wrote in to say that he has his job and he loves his coworkers, but nothing to complain about, but he hates going to work there every day because all 8 hours he's there, he's thinking about his own business and is wondering, is it time to quit your job? So there's 3 things you want to think about when you're going to quit your job, okay? Number 1, have a job where you're learning. You don't want a job just for a paycheck. You want a job where you're going to learn about your industry. So I try to go work for a company that's in your industry, that's a smallish company, something that you aspire to be, and you can get close to the entrepreneur founder and you can learn as much as possible and make the mistakes. That way you're getting paid to make mistakes, you're getting paid to learn about the industry, and you're going there for more than just a paycheck. Okay, if you're having a job, you want to make sure you're using it to learn. So that's number 1. Make sure the job you're in, you're learning from it. Number 2 is start part-time. Start your company now, right? Start it on the evenings, start it on the weekends. You gotta allow time for momentum to grow. So don't wait until you're gonna quit your job and then go full-time on your business. Start it up part-time right now. That's the best time to get going. And number 3, you quit when you can support yourself, right? You quit when you're making enough money from your business to be able to support yourself and your livelihood. And that doesn't mean you're making it rich, okay? You're not off buying Teslas for yourself from your business, but you're able to pay your rent, you're able to pay your mortgage, you're able to put food on the table. You know, the electricity company's not gonna come and shut you off. That's when you quit at your job, okay? Because you wanna make sure, too many entrepreneurs make that mistake. They go all in, and then they quickly run out of savings. They only have 3 months of savings, and it doesn't work out. They have to go back and get a job, and I don't want that to be you. So number 1, have a job where you're learning. Number 2, start part-time, and number 3, quit when you can support yourself. I want to get to the calls again. I have Michelle on the line. Michelle, where are you from, and how can I help?
Hi, I'm from Randolph, New Jersey, and I am in the process of starting up my own daycare. I have a site. We're going through the licensing procedures so that the building is up to code. My question is, what is the most cost-efficient way for me to advertise without breaking the bank, considering right now everything is just laying out money? There's obviously nothing coming in at the moment.
Right, and when are you going to be up and running?
The goal is to be up and running for July 1st, so I mean, it's around the corner.
Cool. So the 2 things I would look at, 1 is making alliances. Who is already connected to these groups of young parents, and how can you connect with them to do co-marketing, right? Who already has the audience that you're going after, and how can you help each other out? So if you can think of other businesses that aren't daycares that are also selling to new parents or young parents, and maybe you could have their flyers in your store or in your at your daycare, and in return they're helping market you to their audience. Are there some people that come to mind?
Yeah, there are a few businesses, absolutely, and actually, because I'm starting to put together my staff, they have young children, and that's the draw to working in the field. So I've even told the staff that I'm in the process of trying to hire and train and prepare. Word of mouth.
Yeah, so I'd be looking at, are there local mom and pop baby shop stores, right, that are selling strollers and selling bottles and all this stuff. You think about where do parents have to buy for their kids before they come to you, right? All the things that a parent has to buy, those stores are potential partners for you, because then they're gonna come to you next, right? So before I have my kid, I'm gonna go and buy a stroller and buy the swaddles and buy the crib and all that, and then after the baby's born, I'm gonna be interested in daycare services. So those kinds of stores would be great potential promotional partners for you. And I mean, to fill a daycare, how many people can you fit? How many kids can you fit in your daycare?
We are licensed for only 50. It's a small center.
Right. So I mean, 50 is not a lot in comparison to how many people are coming in the foot traffic to those stores buying various baby toys and equipment. So I would make a concerted effort to introduce myself to all of those stores that are selling to the parents, have them know who you are, and look for a way to market with each other. You could have their information in your daycare, and they could market you in their store. The other thing I would try to do is try to make a splash in the local media. I would get in touch with all the reporters, all the even bloggers that are local, anybody even on Twitter or YouTube that is local to where you are that covers these issues, and introduce yourself and talk about what's, what you believe in, what's different about your daycare, right? You're just not just another daycare out there. What's so different about Michelle's awesome daycare? Right, your philosophy, right? And have you be a potential, expert to talk about whatever issues are permanent or are prevalent, in the daycare industry right now. You could have a column in a local newspaper. You could be a guest on somebody's YouTube channel. Make that list and then be the expert. So what's so different about Michelle's daycare compared to the other ones?
What's different is the fact that we're trying to make it more of a family environment and meeting the needs of every single child. The one reason that drew me to want to even start it was so many of my friends were saying, oh, my child got kicked out of daycare because they bit 3 times and they had this rule. And I'm like, well, that's a crazy rule to kick a child out of daycare. Just listening to my friends who have young children too. And it's like, some of these daycares, they charge crazy money and they have these crazy rules and they impose things that, biting is a normal process, developmental process. And that's actually what drove me to want to do this.
Got it. So that's very cool. And that could definitely be a story. That could be multiple stories, right? You could have a story about what it means to have a family environment in the daycare. You could have a story about ridiculous rules that daycares have. You could have a story about how biting is a normal part of a child's development and people need to understand that. Those could all be different angles and different stories that the media would be interested in, that mommy YouTuber might be interested in, a mommy blogger might be interested in, especially if they are aligned with the same feelings as you are, right? If you have a mommy blogger who feels the exact same way, that biting is normal and these rules are ridiculous, they're going to love you, right? And they're going to want to feature you and share your daycare. And honestly, to get 50 people it's not a huge number, right? You're not trying to get 1,000 new students coming in. So look at making partnerships and look at getting into the media. Both of them are totally free strategies, doesn't cost you anything, pretty high leverage, and I think will help you grow your business.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the help.
No problem, Michelle. Good luck. And for everybody listening in, you don't have to go out and spend lots of money to market your business. I know it's stressful and there's a lot of money that may go out. You start a daycare, there's a lot of expenses that go out right at the start to set up your location. And the last thing you want to do is start spending tons and tons of money promoting it. So by using the media, by using the social media and bloggers and connecting to YouTubers in your community, and then by forming alliances, you'll have a much higher degree of success in marketing your business and being able to grow it to the next level without having to spend tons and tons and tons of money. Welcome back to the Evan Carmichael Show. I believe in entrepreneurs, and I'm really excited today to have a special guest on with me, Dave Curlin, a buddy of mine. He's a sales guru. He's written a number of books on the topic. He's also a baseball fan, which is important. We like different teams, but I'll still have him on the show. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Evan. Great to be on the show again.
My Blue Jays are in the tank, so I don't want to talk about baseball right now.
Yeah, my Red Sox are doing even worse, so I think we're tied with the Blue Jays for last place. So it's not a great subject right now.
All right, well, I believe we're going to come out of it.
I'm not so optimistic on my end.
Let's talk about something that we can help people with, I think, and change the tone to something more optimistic. Let's talk about selling value. Why do people make such a big deal about selling value?
Well, it's become more important recently because so many companies and so many products are getting commoditized. And buyers are approaching products from a price perspective and wanting the best price and the lowest price. And companies can't stay in business if they're giving their stuff away. And with all this pressure on price, margins are getting smaller, profits are getting smaller. It's putting more pressure on companies to do even more volume than before. Salespeople are having trouble and struggling to do that additional volume. So instead, it's important that companies learn to differentiate, by selling value and selling consultatively and doing things that'll support value selling.
So there's a value proposition. Is that what we use to sell value?
Well, it's interesting. The value proposition came into vogue maybe back in the 80s when it became fashionable to construct the company value proposition, which was really a piece of marketing, brilliant marketing, the unique value proposition. But soon every company had a value proposition, and they all sounded the same. So in the late 90s, we started to see the value add. So in addition to the value proposition, the value add was the thing that a company would do over and above what someone was paying for. But by the 2000s, everybody had a value add. So in each of these iterations, we'd get to a point where everybody was the same again. And it allowed buyers to commoditize companies and products. So today, there's still a value proposition. Companies still have a unique value proposition, and they're still doing a value add. But the big differentiator today is the salesperson. And they must differentiate by not adding value and not talking about value, but by actually being the value. And that's important because unlike even 5 or 10 years ago, today, anything that a prospect or a customer or a buyer needs to know, they can find on the internet. So salespeople used to be a source of knowledge and a source of pricing and a product expert. People don't need that anymore from salespeople. So salespeople have to bring something more valuable to the table than knowledge about their own product. They have to bring industry knowledge, application knowledge, and most importantly, they've got to ask the tough questions that cause prospects to rethink their strategies and rethink their way of doing things and perhaps change their approach and their thinking behind why they might have needed a product or a service in the first place.
So for the entrepreneurs and salespeople listening to this show who may be trying to do things the old way and maybe just, trying to pound the phones and it's not working as well as it used to, is there a checklist that you go through, a recommended, steps, or is there an example you can share with someone doing it right that they can use as a template? I'm just trying to get, how do I be that person now who is value instead of just trying to have a value proposition?
Sure. So let's walk it through, but we'll walk it through backwards instead of forwards. So backwards would be the point where we're finally talking about money. And the mistake that those salespeople you're talking about are making is if they give a prospect the slightest hope that they can have the best price, the lowest price, meet a price, discount the price, negotiate the price, all the things that salespeople do as a crutch to get the business, then they're moving away from selling value and they're moving toward selling on price. And the minute the conversation moves away from value and toward price, then it is about price. And value goes away, it's lost, and now we're commoditized, and the only differentiator will ultimately be the price. So instead, they must know that they can't make exceptions. They can't allude to a better price. This is the price. And to support that price, a couple things need to happen before we get to money. The first is that the salesperson must uncover a compelling reason as to why this prospect or this company would want to move their business to us. They're doing business with somebody else. Why would they leave? Why would they give that up? Why would they change? What's wrong? What isn't good enough? What's one of the hang-ups? What's one of the frustrations? And how is that impacting them? And how is that affecting their life? And how is that affecting profits? And is it costing anything? So can we identify a compelling reason why they'd move their business to us? Can we uncover the consequences of whatever problems are going on, and can we quantify those consequences? So that's taking a consultative, customer-focused approach to selling, where instead of talking about us and what we sell, we're talking about them and what's going on and how that impacts them. And if we've uncovered a compelling reason and a consequence and been able to quantify it, the second thing we have to do is differentiate ourselves. So that conversation will help to differentiate ourselves. But continuing to have a conversation where we're asking lots of questions, we're asking lots of good questions, tough questions, and even having the conversation that nobody's ever had with them before, where we can push back and challenge their thinking. That's how we differentiate. We don't differentiate with features and benefits anymore. We don't differentiate by having a better price anymore. We differentiate by having a valuable conversation about them and what's going on, and uncovering reasons why we might be able to help. And then being able to ask whether they'll, not whether if we had a competitive price they'd consider us, but instead if they're willing to spend a little bit more to do business with us in order to solve this problem that's affecting them this way and costing them this much money. Right. So we're introducing cost in the context of the quantification of their problem.
Right. So it sounds like, you got to really understand your product and service, really understand how it can help them, and actually care about them, right? And actually try to have a conversation to figure out what's best for them, understand their needs, and kind of craft it around that. And showing that care really helps you stand out.
You bring out a great point there, because as we're asking these questions and having this conversation, we are showing that we are listening, which is different from what most salespeople do. We're showing that we care about them and their company and their plight, which is different from what most salespeople do. We're making it about them, which is different from what most salespeople do. And through this conversation, we're demonstrating our expertise, not because we're talking about what we know, because we're asking the right questions. And that helps us establish credibility. So we differentiate ourselves in that way too. And along the way, because of this great conversation, we're building a relationship. And we may end up at the end of this conversation with a better relationship than anybody else has with them.
Right. I love it. Dave, for people who are listening in and they want to learn more, where can they learn about you?
Oh, all they have to do is Google Dave Kurlan, Kurlan, and I'm sure they can find me very easily doing that. They could also email me. It's dkurlan@kurlanassociates.com, or they can visit my blog, which is OMG, like oh my God, except it stands for Objective Management Group, Hub, OMGHub, HUB.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Dave. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Great being on with you again, Evan. Looking forward to the next one.
Welcome back to the Evan Carmichael Show. I believe in entrepreneurs. I recently got asked a question by one of my YouTube followers, Cindy, who wrote in to say, how can I give it all to my dreams? How can I stop being afraid of imperfection? This is really important because as entrepreneurs, you tend to have really great taste, right? You know what's good, you know what's not good. You've acquired this taste over years and years and years, but your skills, your abilities aren't quite matching up to your taste yet. The stuff that you create isn't amazing yet, isn't of that same caliber. And so everything you create, you think sucks. You think has to be better, think has to be perfect. And that holds you back from continuing on. What you have to understand is everything you learn is just like a skill, and it gets better with practice, and you have to practice and practice and practice. And don't compare yourself to where you want to be yet. Compare yourself to what you did last time, and slowly you'll close that gap. Slowly you'll close the gap between what you know is really good and what you can create. And the challenge is so much often is riding on that and having that perfect product, that perfect creation, that if it doesn't work out, you feel like you've lost everything, right? You lose all meaning because you've lost your hope, you've lost that dream project, and so you'd rather do nothing than try, because you know what you're going to try is going to not be great. And so understand that there's that gap. Understand that you have really high tastes and really high expectations of yourself, but you don't have the skills and abilities yet. And you can close that gap, and you will close that gap, but only through consistency and following through and practicing. So it's okay to suck at the start. You'll suck at anything at the start. And every time you continue moving forward, you'll get better and better and better. I have time for one last caller. I have Tim on the line. Tim, where are you from and how can I help?
I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And
all right.
The question I have is I've started doing corporate speaking gigs. I translate my career as a firefighter and leadership and teamwork in firefighting to the corporate environment, and kind of compare and contrast those two things. Okay. And so the question I have is how do I set pricing? I've had people willing to pay $1,500 to do it. And I've read stuff that says that you got to be at least $2,500, and I don't know really how to price it.
So one, it's a great question, and this is a classic kind of supply-demand issue. If you have tons of space open and no gigs, then that $1,500 gig looks pretty good. If you're kind of full up on those, then you can start to lose deals because you don't care, because you have more than enough. It'll often depend on the client, which is what I found in the speaking that I do. Some clients have a very minimal budget, and some clients will have a much larger budget. For most of my speaking gigs, it's $10,000 plus travel and accommodations and all of that stuff. But not everybody can afford that, and so if you're dealing with an organization that's smaller, which I'll often have, a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't have a lot of money. So I might take a speaking gig that's for less money or for free because I really believe in what they're doing and because my schedule permits it. So what I try to do is when I get on a call with somebody, I always ask what their budget is. I always try to have them give me a little bit of information and some clues, and I'll start at a high number and see what their reaction is. I'll start at my $10,000, which is my preferred rate. And then some people are like, oh, that's way too high. I can't come anywhere close to that. I was thinking more like $1,500, right? And then just thinking, okay, does that fit? Do I like this organization? Is this going to be good for my brand? Do I want to help these people? Do I have it in my schedule, the availability to do it? Or not. And over time, as you get better, as you build a reputation, you can charge more and more and more and more and more. I'm at $10,000, but that's nowhere near the top of the spectrum.
And the last question on that: who do you approach in the corporate? I mean, do you go out and sell yourself, or do you wait for people to come to you? Because if I'm at the point where I got to go out and make my own contacts, and I'm just wondering who's the best person to approach in an organization for the ask.
Honestly, the best results I've had are through YouTube. I put my stuff on YouTube. I post 2 videos a day. Now, you may not be able to do 2 videos a day, and that's cool, but people want to see your, if you're a speaker, YouTube's a great place to be because it's a very visual medium, right? They want to see you speaking, whether it's in front of an audience or just you at your home or at the fire hall or wherever. Because there's a lot of corporate people who are on YouTube or even on Google searching for those topics, right? So you could do a session on leadership lessons from the fire hall, as an example, just pulling something out. People in corporate will be looking for leadership lessons, and your video will pop up. And if it's good, then they're going to see what else is on your channel and say, wow, I really like this Tim guy. He's got a really unique angle, creative message. They're going to reach out to you and want to do some kind of deal. Whether that's a speaking opportunity, whether it's making a video for their channel, whether it's doing joining their sales calls with their team and motivating them, whatever it is. I have an agent. I've worked with speaking houses. I find the best results honestly have come just through my YouTube channel.
Excellent. I have a channel, so I need to expand what I do on the channel.
Yeah, I put at least 1 video a week on the channel. I don't know what you're doing right now, but at least 1 a week. So if you're getting questions from corporate, if you see like common questions that you get asked at those engagements, I would turn those into individual videos. So think about the last speaking gig you did and the questions you got from the audience. If you had 10 questions, turn each of those into 10 separate, 3 to 5 minute videos on YouTube.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Cool. All right. Good luck. Yeah, for everybody listening in, get yourself out on social media. It's so easy to use. It's so free. It's where everybody's attention is going these days. And when somebody is doing a search for whatever your product or service is, you want to be able to show up, especially if you're in a visual medium, right? You're talking about being a speaker. That's such a visual medium. You can't do justice to how good a speaker you are by writing an article, right? Because the whole point of it is that it's visual. They want to see you on stage doing your thing. And so producing regular content on social media is a fantastic way to get exposure, to get people to learn about you, to grow your business, to make partnerships, to get speaking gigs, to get corporate gigs. Everybody get on YouTube, 1 video per week to grow. All right, it's been another amazing show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you again to my producers, Daniela and Josh. You guys rock. And for everybody listening, continue to believe, and I will see you soon.